welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Bajo.
And I'm Hex.
It's great to be back, already with so many huge titles released this year. Oh my god.
Damn straight, February is suffering from a massive case of sequelitis. Commander Shepard is back for a close encounter of the second kind in Mass Effect 2.
And Kill 'em or Save 'em, the little sisters that is, as we return to Rapture in BioShock 2.
The government is currently taking public submissions on whether or not Australia should be given an R18 plus rating for video games. We revisit the issue and talk to the man at the centre of the debate, South Australian Attorney General Michael Atkinson. But first, can you guess the game for this week? News time, Bajo.
The Xbox Live service for the original Xbox will shut down forever on April 15. To mark the occasion, Bungie is planning a Halo 2 extravaganza to send the console off with a bang. Gamers have been advised to mark their calendars as a worldwide multiplayer event is scheduled for the 14th to give the Halo 2 community one last hurrah. Game design legend Peter Molyneux has had a brush with death over the Christmas break. While walking over a frozen pond, he fell through the ice and narrowly escaped drowning. True story. Posting on the official Lionhead Studios Twitter, a colleague of his remarked, "I'm surprised he needed to be saved. I was sure he could walk on water." Saudi Arabia has introduced a controversial new rehab scheme for reforming terrorists. Consisting of a light course of exercise, painting, and video games, the program is designed to prepare convicted terrorists for reintroduction into society. Graduates are rewarded with a job, financial assistance, and a new car. The program is considered such a success that Afghanistan is considering copying it to rehabilitate captured Taliban fighters.
Good game.
Now, we know that Mass Effect 2 has been out for weeks and most of you have probably imported your old characters and played through it twice and then gone back and done every single class and explored every single Paragon of Renegade, dialogue tree and possible option, but we like space and we think space is cool and we're going to review it anyway. Shepard is back, and within moments, a group known as the Collectors rock up and laser him and his crew and his ship to smithereens. After a truly spectacular opening sequence, a human supremacist group known as Cerberus set about reconstructing zombie Shepard, and 2 years later, he's back on his feet, ready to bionically slap anyone in his path.
Oh, her Bajo. Actually, the female voice acting is much, much better. But why do you always make your RPG characters look so ridiculous? I mean, this one looked like a constantly surprised, overgrown gnome.
Ugly user-generated characters just add an extra layer of fun for me in cutscenes.
It's only fair. You've had 2 years to look at me, and I was wearing less than you are.
We review this on Xbox 360, and unless you like loading screens, we recommend you install it to your hard drive. Navigating the different levels with your ship is a slow process without installation.
I like the way they masked the texture popping here though, Hex. When it cuts from a scene, there's a big soft blur that glows over everything, which gives it time to load the texture, and it's kind of like your eye focusing on a scene, and it just works.
The main improvement with this super sequel, though, is the reworked combat. You can really tell that the developer BioWare has worked to make that pew-pew action better.
They have, and truth is, the game did kind of need it. Now you really look forward to these battles. They're Gears of War-ish, and the game encourages you to use your squad mates' abilities in tandem with your own, and this works somewhat, but mostly you'll just rush into an area, then get your teammates to take out 2 enemies with their powers, and then pick off the rest yourself. And on normal, it felt pretty easy to me.
Yeah, well, of course you can check cooldowns and give orders by pausing combat. But mapping powers to the D-pad makes the action more pacey, and you can get away with not pausing at all unless you need to revive a teammate.
Can't get a lock.
I was hoping for more interesting powers this time around, Badge, and if there were more situations that required you to use them, I think there would have been a more tactical mechanic.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, these are only small little gripes. My only real gripe with the combat is that the same button to get your teammate to use a power also orders them to that location, so you're constantly sending them off for a jog.
Yes, I hate it when there's simple configuration problems like that, which you'd think could have been so easily addressed.
Can't reach the target.
The epic planetscapes will remind you of that first time you looked up and saw that halo in the sky. And if you can stop ramming aliens for a minute and take a look around, you'll see that a lot of love has gone into creating these inspired worlds and environments.
I agree. This, along with the improvements to the level design, means that you rarely have to look at your compass. You almost always know where you're going. It's only really on the busy space stations that you may find yourself wandering into the same souvenir store over and over again. Missions will see you investigating crash sites, derelict ships, and dealing with some pretty interesting adult themes.
Is there something I can do for you?
Whatever he did, he probably deserves worse.
He certainly does.
Each squad member you pick up has their own story too, so it's not just a journey for Shepard, but for your whole crew as well.
I didn't develop any sexy relationships this time around, Hex, mainly because I couldn't be bothered going up and down that elevator and talking to them and then coming back up and then hearing my computer tell me I have to go back and talk to another one.
Hey, if you're buying prisoners, can you buy me?
But if you do develop their storyline missions, they'll become loyal to you if you do it in the right way, and then you'll get an extra ability, and it's worth it because the missions are really fun. But Hex, after all those twisting decisions in Dragon Age Origins last year, I found the whole black and white Paragon Renegade thing here just a little bit simple.
Yeah, Dragon Age Origins was a twisting novel and a half. I really miss those tough decisions too, though, Badge, even though there's still a lot to lose yourself in here. But it was nice having an Aussie companion along for the ride.
He's a hero, a bloody icon.
This game has been very, very popular and critically successful as well. And whilst I agree with a lot of the comments that have been made about it, for me, I wanted it to be more hard PG. I think last year the bar really got lifted with Uncharted 2 and Dragon Age, the story in that game and the way you loved those characters. So here I just kind of didn't care about them, and there just wasn't enough gear, enough stats. It needs to be hard PG. You know what I mean? Do you agree? Am I making sense?
Some critics are saying this game is close to perfect.
No, it's not. Don't get me wrong, the Space Nerd inside me went crazy all over this game. I even found the mining strangely calming. But I just feel like they're missing a few opportunities to go crazy with the gear. You're in space. Give me a laser. I'm giving it 8.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I loved every second I spent in this game. There's such obvious influences from BSG, Star Wars, Terminator, the list goes on, and a familiar cast of sci-fi voice actors.
There. I just saved you about 9 days of running around. That said, you should head up to the Presidium and tell them you're still alive.
Plus, you've got to commend BioWare for releasing 2 great titles in such a short space of time. All this with being able to port your character over from the first game. It's 9 out of 10 rubber chickens from me.
We interviewed Dr. Greg Zeschuk, the Vice President of BioWare, and you can catch that full interview on the website.
Good game.
With some huge titles being released just after the silly season, there was plenty of reason for us to stay in and play over the break.
And we can't resist talking about them.
Damn straight. Straight to hell, that is. With God of War 3 mashing circle at the door, it seems many devs wanted to jump the hell gate and have a demon-slaying party of their own, and the first to do so was Darksiders. You play as War, one of the horsemen of the apocalypse, who's in charge with keeping the balance between the angels and demons of heaven and hell.
Your powers are stripped from you within the first hour of gameplay, which is a mechanic we're seeing more and more. I guess the idea is that if you're playing in full epic mode from a start and then they take the toys away, you're going to want to punch through to the end to get them back.
Yeah, I'm a bit over that, really, especially because they don't give you the best power back often until right to the end of the game. Thanks. But Darksiders pretty early on embarks on a journey to reward you as much as possible with weapons, abilities, and the destructive joy that is the war form.
He's badass. And I like the combos, even if the finishing moves are a little bit repetitive, especially since it's always worth your while to do the finishes instead of just hacking away at them.
Yeah, they do get a little bit old, but after a while, all those little battles become mini puzzles in themselves as you balance your abilities with your war form. Although I think every other character in the game is much more interesting than War. He's really boring, but everyone, even the trading, the Soul Collector guy is more interesting than him. As well as the obvious influence from God of War, which I'm totally fine with, by the way, a lot has been said about the influence of Zelda in this game, especially in the puzzles.
Yeah, and it shows. I love when you walk into a chamber and you can just start to see grappling hooks and ledges and unlit sconces and you start planning. But you have to admit, this game does give good demon.
And special props should go to the art design of comic book artist Joe Madureira, who made some great landscapes and some of the best demons I've slayed in weeks, days, minutes.
Which brings us to Bayonetta, our second demon-smacking extravaganza. I had a lot of fun with this game, but oh, what a surprise. She's stuck in the middle of a battle between heaven and hell.
What a coincidence!
The once harmonious clans fell into disagreement and stoked the flames of hatred against each other, resulting in an era of strife.
Bayonetta is a witch who wears a living outfit crafted out of her own hair, which spills from a giant ponytail on top of her head. She has guns strapped to her high heels, another set in her hands, and she can use her hair to create giant demonic appendages in the shape of a fist or a boot. Of course, when her hair is occupied making boots, it's no longer clothing her body. Go figure, she's naked. As you can probably guess, the game draws a lot of inspiration from anime, from the art and design, the shameless gratuity, and the music. Some might find this style a little bit too much, though, as it often crosses the line between awesome and completely freaking ridiculous.
I had no idea what was going on, and I hated that music so much that it almost made me put the controller down.
Yeah, okay, I respect that J-pop renditions of Fly Me to the Moon aren't your thing, but I don't know, this game had a very particular kitschy aesthetic in mind, and it delivered on all accounts. Bajo, I had to pause on several occasions during the cutscenes because I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, Bayonetta's sassy one-liners while her crotch came flying towards the camera.
Do you naughty little angels deserve a good spanking?
There's no doubt it's not one for the feminists. Cue Minge montage. But the whole thing is so insanely over the top that I really came to love it after a while. And the music becomes this hilarious fight soundtrack like something out of Charlie's Angels, punctuated with a saucy wink or a pose at the end.
All the cutscenes and story just confused and annoyed me, but I stayed in the game for the combat. It's very much like Devil May Cry, where you make your own fun. Also, the devs should be applauded for letting you practice all your moves in every loading screen. That was awesome. And it's just so visually chaotic too, with all the guns strapped to your limbs and you're literally doing the splits and attacking from all angles.
As long as there's music, I'll keep on dancing.
One other game that came out over the break was the sequel to Army of Two, Army of Two 2, or Army of Two 40th Day, and it's much better than the previous game, but you still really need to play it with a friend.
I found the moral choice part pretty dreadful. I mean, some of them were tasteless or just random. I mean, you save a white tiger, then he goes off and eats a robber. What?
Yeah, and they're almost so absurd, they're kind of funny. I went the other path on that one, though. Extinct! Well, that's a little taste of what we've been playing over the break. Do you agree, disagree? Drop by the forums and leave us your thoughts.
Good game!
Good Game last visited Australia's R18 ratings issue, and the man at the centre of the debate, South Australian Attorney-General Michael Atkinson in 2007.
2 years later, and the discussion paper calling for public opinion has been released, and Michael Atkinson now has some competition on his hands at the upcoming South Australia state election.
Well, the number of games banned in 2009 points squarely to the fact that our classification system is ridiculous, outdated, and in need of change. There can be no doubt about that. Michael Atkinson's starting point is that games are just for kids. Despite massive amounts of evidence to the contrary, despite the fact that the average age of gamers in Australia is 29, not 9, despite the fact that there's as wide a range of genres of types of games available as there are films and television shows.
By contrast with cinema, with interactive games, people are doing the things. One can go to the cinema and see someone beheaded, and one sees it as a passive viewer. I think it can do harm, but we permit it within certain restrictions. But the reason that I think interactive games are different is that in interactive games, the person playing is doing the action, and therefore I think it has a higher impact, and impact has always been a consideration in censorship or classification, call it what you will.
There are some video games that have objectionable content. Those video games would likely fall into the refused classification realm anyway. This isn't about getting more violence into video games. This is just about labelling it appropriately so that people buying video games for their children or their grandchildren understand the type of content that's in them. If you look at just the recent 5 years for the MA15 rated games that have been rated 17 in the States, 18 in Europe, and 18 in New Zealand because they have an R18 rating, and we're talking 50 or 60 games, and they haven't received any edits to get the MA15 plus rating. The R18 rating is about giving people more information about the types of content that modern video games have.
Oh, you have to help me, please.
The discussion paper on the R18 rating for video games in Australia is hugely important. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and it's going to change some attorneys' general views on whether or not we need an R18 rating.
It was a relief to see the discussion paper released. The document's out there, it's fine, it's a very broad, general document. Really, it should be considered a call to action for everybody in Australia who's passionate about this issue.
It would have been a fairer and more accessible paper to the vast majority of society if it had included still images of the games about which there's an argument. I think it's very hard for those members of the public who don't play games to relate to the debate.
I'm the Gamers for Croydon candidate in the seat of Croydon, and I'm going up against Michael Atkinson in the South Australian election. I really think Australia needs an R18 classification. I believe it's better for parents, it's better for children, because parents can better monitor the content that their children are accessing, and I believe adults have the right to make adult choices regarding this matter.
A recent story in the media was Mr. Atkinson claiming that our campaign would involve criminal activities and dirty tricks, and what's more, that's what he's come to expect of all gamers.
I think criminal defamation is a better formulation of that, and you've seen the kind of material that R18 plus gamers are circulating. Now, I have no evidence to say that that is being circulated by members of Gamers for Croydon. I don't know who sends me this filthy material, but I get my electorate office email spammed. About 2 o'clock in the morning, I had a threatening note from a gamer shoved under my door. I feel that my family and I are more at risk from gamers than we are from the outlaw motorcycle gangs who also hate me and are running a candidate against me. The outlaw motorcycle gangs haven't been hanging around my doorstep at 2 a.m. A gamer has.
Now really is the time to act. Everybody who's passionate about this issue needs to put pen to paper, articulate their views, and passionately, but not angrily, get those submissions into the Attorney General's department.
More angels, Daddy. This way.
BioShock 2 returns us to the dystopian world of Rapture after 10 years of decay, and who knows what else has been going on down there.
This time, however, you experience the game from a different perspective as you play as one of the original Big Daddies who's regained control of his free will. You set about to find your little sister Eleanor because the bond you share means you cannot leave the city without her.
Look, Daddy, it's you.
The format is very similar to the first, and within moments you slot right into that BioShock groove as you walk around the leaking, dilapidated city of Rapture. You'll be taking out splicers, hacking vending machines and turrets, and Hex, I never got sick of listening to those audio logs. BioShock just does it so well.
I've been rationing my supplies ever since the park got cut off from the rest of Rapture.
Obviously, this time there's no Andrew Ryan about because he's swimming with the fishes.
No, one of his old political adversaries has popped up out of nowhere.
This is not your daughter.
Sophia Lamb, whose manipulative cult-like philosophy of the greater good has fallen way past the point of religious extremist.
Remember, Big Sister is always watching.
This means some of her actions are kind of crazy, like when she tries to flush you out of Rapture by flooding one of its alleys.
Yeah, that was intense, and there's a lot more bigger moments like that this time around. Luckily, you're safely inside your Big Daddy suit, and I gotta say, Hex, I was a little bit worried that the Big Daddy suit would be slower and clunky like it was at the end of the first game, but it's not like that at all. I quite liked the combat in this suit.
Yeah, I mean, the splicers still come at you from all angles, but this time you can drill their faces off right from the get-go, and I, for one, feel a lot safer knowing that.
There is a food chain, though. Now there are big sisters, and they're kind of like a Big Daddy that's skinnier and more overactive, hyper, had a million coffees, and a lot tougher to take down.
You do have your trusty plasmids to help fend them off with, and combining the right plasmid with your surroundings is still a big part of combat. Setting fire to oil spills, electrocuting enemies that are in water, or using telekinesis to hurl back burning objects that are thrown at you. All things you really should be a pro at from the first game.
I like the way they shake about. There's also shotguns and machine guns and other weapons, and they're all good for ranged combat. You can also change up the ammo for more damage, but there's now trap darts which you can plug into a wall or in doorways, and they act as traps.
These come in particularly handy when you adopt a little sister and use her to harvest Adam for you. As a Big Daddy, you will get the chance to do this from time to time. The catch is, once she starts to harvest, hordes of splicers will start pouring into the room Left 4 Dead style, and your duty is to protect her while she gets the job done.
And when that's over, you once again have the option to harvest them or rescue them. Hex, my name's Bajo, and I'm a harvester.
Oh no, I saved them all. I mean, I know they're creepy, but they're so little.
Nope, they gotta die. Don't get upset about it. The one thing that had to change is the hack tool minigame.
Oh yes, no more annoying pipe puzzle.
Yeah, I don't like the pipes. Now it's a dial that moves left to right, and if you time it just right, you're rewarded with a pickup or more damage for the turrets. This makes it a bit more of a scavenge fest because every single hell station and vending machine is absolutely worth hacking because you get a big reward, but that can come in handy too if you're not doing so well. You are vulnerable now while doing these mini games, so it's worth scoping out the area before launching into it. While not a lot has changed about the actual world of Rapture, one big addition is the multiplayer.
If you'd heard rumours that BioShock 2 was actually a prequel, well, that's half right. It's the multiplayer component that takes place 1 year before the first game, during the Civil War that brought about the downfall of Rapture.
We couldn't go online with our code, so we weren't able to verse each other, but we were able to go into the multiplayer levels and have a bit of a poke around. Yeah,
being set before the city went to hell means that the areas we got to play in show Rapture in its intended utopian state, and there were plenty of maps to choose from. I got so lonely running around in there by myself that I took out all my anger on the fish.
Now the multiplayer is, of course, live, so we're going to go online and check it out and bring you an update next week, and we hope you can join us. BioShock 2 is a more refined, polished sequel with a few surprises thrown in, so if you like the first one, chances are you're going to like this one too. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, I mean, it's that thing with sequels being an evolution of the first game. Is it ever really going to be different enough? I think with the multiplayer and those new areas to play through, it could be. I just hope it lives up to expectations. I'm giving it 8.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Last week we caught up with the BioShock team in Canberra, and you can check out that interview on the website. So gamers, did you guess the game for this week?
If you guessed Mech Warrior or any derivations of Mech Warrior, you're close.
But you'd still be wrong because it was actually Shattered Steel from 1996 and the first PC game that BioWare ever made.
Set in 2132 in a world where war for natural resources has left society in ruins, your mission is to operate a mechanized bipedal planet runner to cleanse the planet of aliens and restore order.
And it was a whopping 25 megabytes to install.
OMG.
Yeah, next week, guess what? More demons to battle in Dante's Inferno.
We take a quick time event leap into some very adult gaming with Heavy Rain.
On his ass.
And we see if we can fit 256 players on one server in MAG.
You can download and watch any episode of Good Game from our website here or on iView, and a reminder that our new show, Good Game Spawn Point, especially for younger gamers, starts over on ABC3 this Saturday at 7:25.
The forums await your trolling. Any comments or feedback about the show or gaming in general, leave your mark. Until next week, gamers, Bajo out.
Hex out.